Welcome to the Skip and Shannon Undisputed podcast. I'm Joy Taylor. You can catch us Monday through Friday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, 6:30 Pacific on FS1. Here's what this podcast is all about. It's an unscripted, unfiltered, undisputed version of the day's show, and there is a lot to get into in today's podcast. Shannon makes a Tony Romo coffee table analogy that you have to hear and claims Jerry Jones doesn't want anyone to get any use out of his favorite son. Skip says Tom Brady deserves to complain more than LeBron James right now about a lack of talent because the NBA Eastern Conference is as weak as it's ever been. FS1 NFL analyst Greg Jennings breaks down how New England will try to take Julio Jones out of the game. Plus, Chris Carter is back to help define the market for what options the Steelers have with Antonio Brown. Finally, Rob Parker and former NFL head coach Eric Mangini come by to talk about Brady's legacy, and yes, Mr. Parker says he will write the tell-all about Tom Terrific. Anything you want to say, Skip?
This is what happens when we don't have the Dallas Cowboys in the Super Bowl. We lead the show talking about the number one Cowboy fan, LeBron James, right? That's what happens. See? I told you.
Skip, I really do wish the Cowboys had made it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, thank you.
We know that. Let's get it started in the NBA. LeBron James vented to the media after the Cavs lost to the Pelicans on Monday, saying, quote, "We need a bleeping playmaker." LeBron went deeper into his comments with a series of tweets yesterday. LeBron said, "I'm not mad or upset at management because Griff and staff have done a great job. I just feel we still need to improve in order to repeat if that's what we want to do. Lately taking L's, but very soon we'll bounce back. Boy, frustrating as hell. I know my team will bounce back. If you're a real one, then you know how to bounce back." Shan, do you like that your guy LeBron clarified his comments?
It wasn't necessary, but it was a good move to protect and show support for his general manager, David Griffin. And he prefaced that by saying he's made some great moves, getting Channing Frye last year, the trade for Shump and Mozgov the year before. So he's done a lot of good things, trading for Kyle Korver. But also mediocrity. They say satisfaction breeds mediocrity. The Golden State Warriors won 73 games. They could have easily re-signed Harrison Barnes, but they didn't stand pat. They knew they needed more pieces in order to continue to succeed, beating the San Antonio Spurs, gonna get better, and also beating LeBron James. So with that being said, LeBron says, look, I understand you're doing some great things, and I'm gonna show support for you, but we want to repeat. It's not about just winning one and being satisfied for bringing a title to the city of Cleveland after 54-year drought. That's not what this is about. I'm about repeating and repeating again. And so we need more things in our toolbox in order for us to have a chance to repeat again. LeBron is not concerned with the Boston Celtics. He's not concerned with Toronto. He's not concerned with Milwaukee. He knows in order to beat the San Antonio Spurs, I also believe that it's going to be the Golden State Warriors, but in order to beat those two teams, that one of those two teams will represent the West. He knows in order to beat those teams, this is what needs to be done. All he did was say what the Golden State Warriors did last offseason. And Steph Curry, Draymond, and Klay Thompson, when they hopped on that private jet, flew up to the Hamptons, they had that meeting with Kevin Durant, they basically said, Kevin, we need you in order to get to our ultimate goal, which is to win another championship. So I have no problems with what LeBron said at the beginning, but all he did was saying, I'm not trying to throw my general manager or management under the bus because I realize they've done good things for us. But I'm also letting them know that in order to repeat, we need more pieces.
No disrespect to you personally here, but everything you just talked about and everything LeBron tweeted about yesterday was a big bunch of baloney. And I don't eat baloney because I don't like it. So this is nothing but pure fried baloney. That's what it is.
Fried baloney is good.
Well, I don't eat it. That's even worse baloney to me.
You never had that one in the tube?
No, I've never
where you take the knife, you got to get up on it like this, you got to press down hard. Like,
yeah, right.
I figured
you
wouldn't know nothing.
Shannon Sharpe, the more I think about this, the more I thought about this last night, the worse it got to me. And I cannot believe, I guess I can believe that you're giving him a pass, but it seems like everybody is giving LeBron a pass for this. And I step back and say, hold on, what just happened here? LeBron James got away with throwing a profane tantrum after that loss in New Orleans the other night in front of the reporters, just because he had lost a game that dropped them to only 2.5 games ahead of Toronto in the East. Their biggest threat in the East is still the Toronto Raptors, who followed that up last night by losing at home to my San Antonio Spurs without 3 of their starters, including their best player. There was no Kawhi, there was no Pau Gasol, there was no Tony Parker last night, and somehow my Spurs won at Toronto, playing a road back-to-back, Brooklyn and Toronto, back-to-back nights. Toughest thing you can do in the NBA, right?
They had an off night the night before. They played Brooklyn. That was a night off.
Well, but I'm just saying you have to sort of suck it up and get on the flight and go through customs in Canada, and it's cold and it's snowing and whatever. And they won at Toronto, which put this all back in even deeper perspective for me, because this is what LeBron is whining about, a threat of the Toronto Raptors, and he needs more help because his team is too top heavy. Who in the NBA doesn't want to be top heavy? Who wouldn't want Kyrie Irving riding shotgun for you? Everybody would want Kyrie Irving and LeBron James and Kevin Love. And as LeBron always says, once you get to the playoffs, the roster gets shortened to what? The bench is shortened to 8? Okay,
maybe
so you
9.
play 8. So top-heavy teams, that's how you win NBA championships. And yet his guy, I think their best offensive player, Kyrie Irving, is the man who hit the shot to win Game 7 of the NBA Finals, and that same guy who hit the shot to beat the Golden State Warriors a mere month ago on Christmas Day in Cleveland, he made that shot. They beat this Golden State team with Kevin Durant. What has been a constant theme of you to me on this show? LeBron owns Kevin Durant, has for his whole career. And I give it up to you.
Right now, he's leasing them to the Warriors.
Okay, so he's leasing them to the Warriors, and the Warriors leased a 14-point lead that Christmas Day right back to Cleveland, right?
Yep.
They had to foreclose because they're not sure how to close the game. Am I right? Because is it Kevin's turn, or wait, Steph, have you deferred enough now? Should you take over? Wait, maybe Clay should take. Well, nobody took the shot and nobody made it, and it cost me a case of Diet Mountain Dew or whatever we bet on that game, right? I lost.
Okay, well,
I lost a 14-point lead with like 9 minutes to go. They beat Golden State, and now LeBron James is throwing profane tantrums about I don't have enough. Are you kidding me? What is the world doing out there? Does anybody hear this?
Can I ask you a question? Are you upset at what he said or the manner of the curse words that he used to say it?
That was way out of character for him. Now, Chris Broussard, who knows him off camera, so to speak, I don't know LeBron off camera, but I study him on camera. He's never done that before.
Right.
I'm not sure Kia loved that. I'm just saying, I don't know. He's got a whole lot of endorsers out there who look at LeBron as the ultimate role model in sports, and I always call him that.
But Skip,
and boy, he was F-bombing in this.
But this is not the first time he said we need a playmaker.
Okay.
He said this a month ago. He said this 6 weeks ago.
Okay.
Now, maybe the frustration of losing to the Pelicans without Anthony Davis brought it to a crescendo.
Maybe.
But he said this.
Okay, but even you jumped up and applauded the day that David Griffin went out and stole Kyle Korver for Mike Dunleavy from Atlanta.
Right.
And remember, Kyle Korver wasn't there on Christmas Day. I lost my case of due with no Kyle Korver. If Kyle had been there making 3 threes down the stretch, I'd say, well, boy, he beefed up that roster, didn't he? Way to go, David Griffin. You pulled off another rabbit out of your hat, right?
Skip, do you actually think LeBron was pinning his title hopes on Kyle Korver? That's not what he's saying, Skip. He's saying that at some point in time, we need a guy that when Kyrie goes out, and if I need to take a break, we need a guy that can run the offense and can go make plays, not only for himself, but can get the offense going for other guys. There's no problem with that. Skip,
okay.
Why do you have a problem with what he said and not a problem with what Golden State did?
I told you before, and Chris Broussard agreed with me, this is the biggest cakewalk in the Eastern Conference in all my years of covering the NBA dating to 1975. I've never seen it this weak. It is no contest for LeBron and company, whatever, top-heavy Cavs. They're going to get back to the finals.
He's not worried about Toronto in the East.
Whose fault was it that through the month of January, do you realize LeBron James he tied for the most minutes played in the month of January?
Yes.
Wow, with Karl Anthony Towns, who's 21 years of age?
Right.
Well, what is he doing? Who coaches the Cavs? LeBron does. He can tell Ty.
Give the man credit,
Skip. But it's up. LeBron can tell Ty, I need a breather, I need a break, I need a blow, I need, take me out. Hold me down to 32 minutes tonight. I mean, Pop does it every night, and LeBron's in awe of Pop. So why wouldn't he coach himself into fewer minutes? What's he doing? What's the point? All that matters to this team.
To win games. That's
okay,
still the point.
but June is all that matters, or May. Whenever mid-April, whenever it kicks up, whenever it's time to start making playoff games, winning playoff games. Right. That's when LeBron's minutes should go up to 35, 38, 40 a night.
Do you actually think he wants to be playing 38 and a half minutes a night?
Well, what's the point? Why is he?
Because
they're fine. They're now 3 games up on Toronto.
Skip, they still need to win games. Normally, LeBron would play the first 8 minutes. He would come sit out 4 minutes of the first period. Mm-hmm. He would start the second. He comes back in the second. He get a little break midway through. He normally plays between 16 to 18 minutes in the first half. Well, now because they're behind or they're in neck and neck in ball games, he's playing more in the third because normally he can't get his break now in the third.
Okay, but they're in a stretch of playing 9 straight Western Conference opponents, and it's going to end tonight with Sacramento in Cleveland, and then you get back to playing the East, right?
Yeah.
So why would you shame your teammates? And I told you yesterday he's been showing them up on the floor, which really drives me crazy because he's too good for that.
No, he's not.
But do you realize the message he just sent to everybody except Kyrie and Kevin Love? You ain't nothing. You guys aren't good enough. And remember, that's Tristan Thompson. I have a lot of respect for Tristan Thompson. I'd want him on my team. Nobody attacks the glass more than he does. And what about Shumpert? And what about Richard Jefferson? And I can go down the roster. I can go all the way down to Liggins and Kay Felder. They're just shamed. It's like he's sending a message to the locker room. You guys are nothing. I can't win with you guys. You're not good enough. I need more help. And you're going to alienate. You're risking losing that locker room at some crucial point later in the year. You're alienating. You're offending. Deep down, they're not going to say it because he is LeBron. He is the king, and you can't take him on publicly. But trust me, there are a few grumbles and whispers out of the sides of mouths in that locker room right now.
All he said is that we're a top-heavy basketball team. We need a playmaker. When Kyrie or myself go to the bench, sometimes I would like for Kyrie and I both to be on the bench simultaneous. We need someone that can go get their own shot, but can also initiate the offense so the offense continue to flow smoothly, although Kyrie and myself are not in the ballgame. Skip, when you're satisfied as a person, you're through as an individual. LeBron James understands that. He's not worried about, forget the cakewalk East. Everything he does is about San Antonio and the Golden State Warriors.
Every time I see Kay Felder play, I say, you know what? That kid's got some game. The Spurs last night, they're playing high minutes. A kid out of the University of Washington, picked late in the first round, a rookie, DeJounte Murray.
Yeah.
He's playing high minutes. He was really good last night, and Pop's just throwing him out there because he really doesn't have any choice right now without Tony Parker. So what's the problem here? Why is LeBron complaining? The Spurs aren't complaining about having
because the Spurs run a different type offense. The Cleveland's offense is really predicated. LeBron James and Kyrie Irving are the only 2 guys that can go get their own shot. They're also really the only 2 guys that they have 2 guys that average 2 assists or more a game. LeBron James and Kyrie Irving. Mm-hmm. The Spurs have 7. Golden State has 7. So basically, they have no one that can go get their own shot, but they also have no one outside of those 2 guys that can help someone else get their shot.
Because they miss Dellavedova, who people that I used to debate on the other show, they used to just laugh at him, scoff at him. Oh, now you miss Dellavedova. Wow. Okay.
But Skip, it's still the fact of the matter is everything is based on Golden State and San Antonio, and they need someone that can go get their own shot and can initiate the offense. No matter what you think about someone else, no matter what you thought about Dellavedova, he was an adequate replacement when Kyrie Irving went to the bench, and he also played very good defense. So that's where they are right now. Okay. There's nothing wrong with what he said.
So let me make a Super Bowl analogy for you. You know who really deserves to complain about having a lack of help right now? The biggest name in sports at this moment deserves to complain, and you won't hear a peep out of him. And his name is Tom Brady.
What is he complaining about?
Tom Brady deserves to complain far more than LeBron with Kyrie and Kevin Love. Look, Tom Brady did have a Kyrie, and his name was Rob Gronkowski, and he ain't there anymore. And what did you hear any complaints from Tom Brady about it?
Even though he had a Rob Gronkowski, what did they do in the offseason? They went and signed Martellus Bennett. What did they also do? They went and signed Chris Hogan. What did they also do?
These are just guys you're talking about to me. They're
you,
just guys.
To you, because the understanding and the inner workings of how a football team work, that works well. They also paid a king's ransom to get Dante Scarnecchia out of retirement, the offensive line coach. So you keep talking about, Tom Brady but what did Bill Belichick do? Tom Brady didn't say it, but he went and got him help. So you upset because LeBron said it.
No,
other teams can go do it.
Do you remember 2 years ago, Monday night, I think it was late in September, early October, Tom Brady and company at Kansas City and got shellacked 41-14 on Monday Night Football.
Yes.
All the commentators after the game said, that's it for Tom Brady. He's through. He's washed up. And he doesn't have enough help.
You should stop listening to the sound.
Did you? Oh, yeah. Well, did you hear any sound out of Tom Brady after that game? Did he throw a profane fit in the locker room about, they got to go get me some help. I'm top heavy here. It's just me against the world.
Okay, well, why did they sign Martellus Bennett? Why did they go sign Chris Hogan? And why did they lure Dante Scarnecchia out of retirement? If Tom Brady didn't need any help because they got their head split in Mile High in Denver.
How much help is Chris Hogan? Buffalo didn't even want him. A team you own in your division just said, we don't need him.
Skip, think about it. And he had the biggest postseason career day in New England Patriots history.
Thanks to Tom Brady, he did.
It doesn't matter who it was thanks to, Skip.
Yep. Does Tom complain at all? I don't have enough help. I need some dominant defenders on the other side of the ball. There's nobody who's going to shake you up and change your game plan on the other side, right?
See.
We got to block who? Nobody.
See, this is what you do. See, you look at it, if it's not a name, it can't work. With no names on that defense, they finished #1 in scoring defense. That tells you something, Skip. See, you're upset because LeBron said it. Golden State went out and did it. Tom Brady the New England Patriots, Coach Belichick went out and got him help.
I don't think Golden State went out and did it. I think Kevin Durant came to them and said, would you take me? Am I right? And they said, you know what? We should do that. We should close our eyes and plunge and tear up our team.
They could have said no.
They could have.
Okay, why didn't they?
Well, because he's a top, 5 player. I told you he's a complimentary star. He's not that guy. He's not the takeover guy. He's not the guy who's going to make the Kyrie shot.
Skip, you need to stop. You need to really, really stop talking about the man as a compliment. The man is a top 2 player in all of basketball.
Yeah, look what's been happening to him when they try to go to him late in games. He's not going to make those shots. He's not Kyrie. He's not built the way Kyrie is. He doesn't have Kyrie's intangibles. LeBron's got Kyrie.
I don't care who, if you combine Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Jerry West, all the greats, every last second shot that they shot, they didn't make. You're probably going to miss more than you're going to make, but you build your name, you build your reputation on being able to, and being willing not only to take, but to make those shots. You have a problem with LeBron James saying,
But wait, you seem to lose sight of the fact LeBron beat that team. He beat it full strength, right? He beat it without Kyle Korver on Christmas Day. It was only 1 month ago from today.
That was one game. Well, a series are based on you got to win 4 games.
And every time I say Draymond got suspended, you say, what did that matter? LeBron went for 40 and whatever he went for. So isn't he that? If he's that guy, what's he need help for?
Well, if you don't have Kevin Durant, LeBron will split their head again. And then now guess what? He's going to split their head again with Kevin Durant.
Okay.
But don't.
There you go. You just made my case.
Because David Griffin's going to get him another piece.
You know what he'll probably do? They'll probably land Chris Paul at the trade deadline.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, they will. They will. You'll say,
Paul.
how did he do that? He picked up the phone. LeBron didn't call the commissioner. I need help.
Might get D Wade or Carmelo. But you need to stop, though, because here's the thing.
He needs Chris Paul. That's who he needs.
And a lot of other people undervalue the Patriots receiver and just the impact that they have. Just because they're not Julio Jones doesn't mean they're not any good, Skip Bayless. Because if you base that on your premise, if you're not Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady, the other 20, 30 other starting quarterbacks are not very good.
Okay, but every time during the year I brought up Julian Edelman, you said, he tries hard, he fights, he's got some guts. He's not the most talented guy.
He's great for them. It takes a special kind of person to play for the New England Patriots. as Ocho Cinco, can everybody that has an ego that's ultra talented, can they
Ocho
pay for
couldn't
them?
make it. He didn't contribute.
Exactly.
Okay? So no talented receivers. If you look over the years, he's made something out of nothing year after year. A bunch of no-name receivers. He had one for about a minute. He had a Randy Moss, and for a while he's had Gronkowski. That's it.
You don't make it to the NFL where there's 1,700 players
Yeah.
out of 7 billion people without being talented.
Okay, if Tom Brady had Matt Ryan's receiving core, it would have been 07 all over
If
again.
Matt Ryan had Bill Belichick and that #1 scoring defense, woo!
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I
LeBron,
thought.
You know,
Stop
this
it.
is the
You're
least
better
amount of
than
pressure
this.
that LeBron's ever had on it in his career, coming off of that championship in Cleveland.
When you're great, there's always pressure.
The least amount of pressure that he's had on him.
He
in his
still
career.
thinks he can catch Jordan,
Let me
which
ask you
is
a
just
question.
delusional. It's delusional.
So there's no pressure on Tom Brady.
Of course, there's pressure on Tom Brady.
Okay, then there's pressure on
But he
LeBron James.
just brought a championship to Cleveland. It's the least amount of pressure on LeBron. It feels a little bit like an early season excuse plan.
No,
that's what it feels
no.
like.
Joy,
It's a
you
little
stop.
excuse seed.
I hope one
give
of
it
them
some
butterflies
water.
fly off, and when you come back,
I didn't have enough
you come
help.
back,
That's
you
why
only
I
have
couldn't
2
beat the Warriors.
butterflies.
Anyway, Skip is going to talk more about LeBron on Facebook
hope
Live
that
on his
butterfly turned into a
Facebook page at 6:30
Large.
Eastern tonight.
Yes.
No mercy. Tom Brady has won 4 Super Bowls and will appear in his NFL record's 7th. But Brady missed the first 4 games of the year to serve as suspension for Deflategate. We're joined by Eric Mangini and Rob Parker.
Hey, Eric,
Welcome,
how you
guys.
doing?
Hey.
At which point you say, you know you guys are in the dressing room together.
First of all, you walk in here together, you're in the makeup room together, you're in the dressing room together, and you walk like you're here like, oh, how you doing, Eric? You just been talking the whole while off camera.
Way too much time. We spent way too much time talking. But look how nice Rob looks.
He does.
It's great, isn't it? He's upped his game.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's
very-
Wall Street.
Very nice. You like it?
Thank you. Hopefully your argument
Yeah,
will match your outfit.
Ponzi scheme.
Wow.
Coach Mangini says Ponzi scheme Wall
Rob,
Street.
let me start with you. How much has Brady's legacy been tainted by Deflategate?
It's been tainted big time, Skip, whether you or the Boston faithful want to admit it. And up there in Boston, let's just be honest, it's a cult. People are up there drinking the Kool-Aid. You can't get people in Boston to even admit that Native Americans had nothing to do with the Boston Tea Party. They don't want to hear it. And the same thing with Tom Brady.
What?
Yes. The same thing with Tom Brady. They will not acknowledge, accept, no matter what goes down with what the Patriots have done, with what Tom Brady has done. But I think that Tom Brady, and I've said this before, should be on par with like a Derek Jeter, who's a guy who was a great champion, won, had a great career, no blemishes. Tom Brady's not in that boat anymore. And I do believe that at some point, some former disgruntled employee is going to write a tell-all book down the road, and we will find out.
Well, you hope.
No, we will find out what went on behind the scenes, what Tom Brady knew, Spygate, Deflategate, all of that, and Tom Brady will wind up being Lance Armstrong without the bicycle. That's what we're going to find out. Yes, without the bicycle. That's what we're going to find out, and then people will be able to put his career in perspective. And you can say whatever you want about it. You could dismiss Spygate. Who does that help when you know the defensive signals? Wouldn't that help the quarterback?
Absolutely.
It just does. Did Tom Brady put up his hands and say, we shouldn't be doing this? This isn't fair. I think people would love to have seen Tom Brady have a great career and it be clean and not have any blemishes. You could say and dismiss and say he was set up by the league and all that. Why is Tom Brady texting a ball boy over 100 times?
I don't remember over 100
He
times.
texted the ball boy a lot, gave him merchandise and all kinds of stuff, or I don't know, I guess. I thought the guy worked for the organization, he got paid. Relax. and one more thing. So when you look at all that, and then he destroyed his phone and didn't cooperate. If you have nothing to hide, I would cooperate if my name was on the line. And Shannon, that's not what he did. His actions were that of a guilty man. So in Boston, it won't matter. Everybody loves Tom Brady no matter what happens, like I said. But in the rest of NFL America, there'll always be a little mark where people will say, I don't know if he did this all on his own or did he have help.
So he
and
cheated
did they
his
cheat?
way to 4 Super Bowl rings.
He just cheated during his career. Now,
Seven Super Bowl appearances.
That's
4
right,
Super Bowl.
and that's why
This
nobody
should
else has
this
ever
should be
done
like Hatergate.
no,
or
it's not. And then everybody
something.
says, "Oh, you guys are just jealous because they win all the time."
And then you
That's
throw
not
out these
true.
facts. It's the what's another hashtag? We could use the alternative facts hashtag.
Yes.
Too, because I don't even know where to go with some of the things you said. You list all these things from Deflategate. If you look at that information, and I went back and looked through it, you have experts on both sides giving conflicting ideas of what happened and what could happen.
Eric, what you can't argue is he was suspended for 4 games. You could
just because he was suspended for 4 games.
That's how it goes.
It's not like it was.
He was a
It's not like it
cheater.
was due process.
No,
it's not
yes,
like
it was.
went through.
That's the process that you do in the NFL.
Look, I've been through a little bit of NFL process. Okay, so I'm not saying it was. I would beg to differ on that. And I think him destroying his phone or not destroying his phone, there's things that maybe he didn't want to see that related to his family. But to sit there and say
delete it. You don't have to destroy it.
To sit there and say that this is a clear-cut situation, it's not. There's expert after expert after expert that conflicts in terms of what happened with the air and the footballs. And if this was such a huge advantage, why did nobody do it before? Like, we've been playing football for a long time. Why has nobody deflated footballs before? Suddenly now it's a huge advantage?
Tom Brady was the one who got the rule in place, right? Wasn't he the one who...
He and Peyton Manning petitioned the league to have access to the football so they could have... They did do that, because I know. But anyway, it's on his resume. How high up on his resume would be determined by how much you like or dislike the Patriots. It's there. It's not going to go away. You're going to look at Tom Brady, and this will always come up. We're talking about it. We never talked about this with Joe Montana. Any quarterback that had multiple Super Bowls, we've never talked about their legacy and possible taints as it pertains to cheating. He's the only NFL quarterback that's going to have that on his resume. Now, for me, he accomplished what he accomplished. How much did Spygate or Deflategate, how much did it help or hurt? That's all.
But Shannon, if you're not doing that, if it doesn't help you, you wouldn't be doing it. So you must be getting some sort of advantage. That's why you do it. You just don't want to get caught, and they got caught.
No, nobody even. It was what was it? Beyond. It wasn't beyond a reasonable doubt. What was it? No. The language was like it was more probable than not that he.
But it was the Colts who called up and said, "Check the footballs," because it was done in their game.
Okay, the NFL after Spygate, the NFL adopted a policy. All 32 owners, which Mr. Robert Kraft owns the New England Patriots, signed unanimous. The term that we would use, the evidence that we would use when dealing with anybody under the umbrella, all 1,700 players, all 32 general managers, all 32 owners, preponderance of the evidence. If it was more probable than not that it occurred, Mr. Kraft signed this unanimous saying this would be the standard in which we use. Now, you can't say you have a problem with this standard after you come ensnared in the process. Now, if it was going to be a problem, you should have said, "No, Commissioner, I want due process. I want what's the standard what they use in criminal court? Reasonable doubt."
Right.
Say that, but don't sign it unanimous and says, "Okay, we can use this standard." And then when you become snared in the web, says, "Well, I got a problem with this, more probable than not, because it's civil liability now."
Shannon, players complain about it all the time that it's uneven in terms of the discipline that comes down, and there's no consistency. There's no process that's in place where each player is treated.
So
the
you're
same
saying
way.
that the commissioner's bad? Is
No,
that what you're saying,
what I'm saying is that there has been year in and year out players that complain about the inconsistency in which discipline is handed down.
This is not criminal justice. This is not the real world. It's a sports league, and you give a commissioner power, and he's the one who's supposed to hand it down.
What's your opinion on this?
You know how I feel about what Tom Brady asked the ball boys consistently to do. Deflate the footballs to the lowest level of the legal limit. That's all. Now, if somebody else mandated that they should be deflated, then that's something else that happened. Okay. But I do believe that you're correct about one thing. I believe the commissioner, who's about to be on Colin Cowherd's show coming up pretty soon, I believe he succeeded in doing what he set out to do, and that was sacrifice and wreck the legacy of a then 38-year-old Tom Brady, now 39, in order to punish the Patriots for what he viewed as their history of cheating. That was his goal, and I think in the court of public opinion that features Rob Parker, I believe he succeeded in that. And I'm with you that the Patriot hate is out there, and if you're going to leap to the conclusion that he lied and cheated in the court of public opinion, you're never going to change your opinion because you didn't like him to begin with. You don't love the city of Boston or the Patriots, so you just jump. You're saying, gotcha, and you'll never back off, no matter how much evidence I would bring you and say, this is more probable than not. If I poke holes throughout the Wells report, you'll still tell me, no, he cheated. And so I can't change that. So I think it was a success on the part of the commissioner.
I just think it's unfair that we won't let Bonds be that great player that he was, right? Everybody knows it, the eye test, because you talk about steroids during that time. So he's tainted. He'll never get his due. And then when it comes to Tom Brady, for whatever reason, everybody's cool with it. I don't get that.
Hey, but
Skip.
I'm cool with Barry Bonds.
I know you are, but I'm talking about most people, and I don't think it's fair.
Rob,
I don't think it's fair.
Fairness is an illusion, Rob.
And you act like he only won in that season. He wins every single year. He's been to 7 Super Bowls. He's won 4.
Wait till the book
You're
comes
saying
out. Wait till Eric. Wait till the book
We
comes
gotta leave it
out.
there. Rob and Eric, thanks for
You may have
joining
the
us.
right.
No mercy. Julio Jones had 9 catches for 180 yards with an injured toe in Sunday's NFC Championship game against the Packers. Patriots defensive coordinator Matt Patricia said, quote, he's probably one of the most dynamic players in the league. We're joined by our newest NFL analyst, Greg Jennings. Welcome, Greg.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Suit looks nice. We talked about your tie a lot in the break.
And it is.
I gotta
it's
keep
something.
up with Skip and Shannon.
Yeah.
Well, me for sure, but.
You don't even wear a tie. You don't even wear a tie.
Let's be clear. Everyone is keeping up with me around here. That's what's happening. Greg, how will New England defend Julio?
It's to be determined. But one thing we do know is what they do when you have a talent like Julio. We watched what they did with Antonio Brown. They made it known to Ben at the snap to their entire offense. You won't have Antonio like you are accustomed to having him. Roam free. They're not trying to disguise anything. They're gonna have 2 guys helping out. They're gonna probably put Logan on him. He's a bigger corner. He's not gonna put Butler on him. No disrespect to Butler. He's a great corner, but you want the bigger size guy, and he's gonna have help. That's what they do. They're gonna take Julio away as much as possible and force the Sanus, the Robinsons, the Gabriels, all those other guys that can make big plays, can stretch the field, and can put stress on the defense. They're going to make those guys beat you.
And that's what you should do. You're always supposed to take away the best option. Now, Coach Saban comes from this system also. He will try and stop the run. You got to make a team one-dimensional to have any chance to beat them, because if you allow them to run the football and throw the football, now they're going to play action you. Now they're going to get big chunk plays. Now, normally when the best offensive team goes up against the best defensive team, normally the best defensive team, they have a pass rusher. They have a pass rush that limit the time that you have to throw the football. But that's not how the Patriots do business.
Not happening.
They just we're going to make you nickel and dime your way down the field. We feel if we don't give you a big chunk play, you'll make a mistake having to go 13, 14 plays before you get the ball into the end zone.
The thing I like about Atlanta, though, and I don't know if we've seen a team that keeps a defense off balance with run, pass, play action, dink, dunk, down the field. This Boots, getting Matt Ryan out of the pocket. They do so many different things, a variety of things, to where you never see them doing the same thing in a drive. They may run 12-play drives. All 12 plays may be different ISO, spread, boots. They keep you so off balance. It'll be interesting to see, because they're gonna run the ball.
Yes.
That's what they do. It opens everything else up. But I think one thing about Atlanta that I love is that they keep you guessing. They're one of the best. They've been great at keeping
done a great job of calling, diagramming plays. And Skip, also, if you look at Coleman and Freeman, they do a great job not only running the football, but they had 85 catches between the 2 of them. So as much as New England likes to use White and Lewis in the receiving game, Kyle Shanahan might dial up his running backs even more in the receiving game.
Absolutely.
And that's what, when you look at the New England, you already know. There's 3 areas that you got to be really, really good. No negative plays on first down. So pre-snap, you can't do anything. No negative plays. Let's get back to the line of scrimmage. At worst case scenario, after first down, 2nd and 10. Don't make it 2nd and 12. Don't make it 2nd and 13. You got to be good on 3rd down. You got to stay on the field. And normally when you average as many points as they average per game, you're staying on the field on 3rd down. Red zone. You score that many points, obviously you're very good in the red zone. Those are going to be the 3 areas that'll be very, very crucial. Staying on rhythm. No negative plays on first down, 3rd down conversion, red zone efficiency.
Okay. No team has as many weapons as this team does, and New England hasn't seen anything about like the array of weapons they're about to get hit with from all angles, all directions, like you just said, in many different creative ways, because you have 2 running backs who can run it and catch it. So Julio Jones, you talked about him earlier, just freakish. I mean, I'm not sure we've ever seen anything. Megatron was in this ballpark, but these 2 are in a ballpark in an ozone we've never seen before. At 6'3", 220 on Julio, 4'3", 40.
Legit.
Okay, so to me, with these little DBs, and most of them are pretty little, the New England ones, even Devin McCourty made the Pro Bowl. He's 5'11", 195, 5'10", 195. This is their safety, okay?
Right.
And all those corners except for Eric Rowe, who's probably their not best corner.
He's probably their 3rd corner.
Yeah, their 3rd corner. He's 6'1", has long arms. So again, but can he run with Julio? No, he can't run with Julio. So I'm not sure how you do this, but the usual MO is to take Malcolm Butler, unless it's Antonio Brown, because he matches up size-wise. Antonio's 5'10", 180. Okay, so you can put Malcolm Butler and let him just fight with him all and take him everywhere.
They
right?
normally take Malcolm Butler and put him on the smaller receiver.
Absolutely.
When they played the Denver Broncos, he always followed Emmanuel Sanders, and then they'll take Logan and let him follow Demaryius Thomas.
But Sanu is his 6'2", 210.
Right.
So how are you going to do that?
Right.
Is he small? No. I mean, you can't put Malcolm Butler on Taylor Gabriel, right? You can't waste him on that.
Right.
Because he's the 3rd receiver. He's the guy who can beat you deep occasionally, right? So I'm not sure how you do this because, look, I watched a lot of Jerry Rice, and there were games when people would say, I'm going to take Jerry Rice out of the game, and you just couldn't take him out of the game because he's just too good. In the Super Bowl against the Bengals, he goes for a Super Bowl record 215 yards, and I'm sure they went into the game thinking, we'll control him. You know, we'll double him. I'm sure he was doubled every snap of that Super Bowl, and he still got 215 yards worth of passes, okay? So I'm not sure you can stop this guy. You can say you're going to try, but can you take him out of the game?
I'm not saying that they're going to stop it. And one thing about the Atlanta Falcons, they have a lot of formation variation. They put guys in motion. They put Julio, even though he's a bigger guy, and he does not struggle getting off the line of scrimmage like a lot of bigger guys. But they still put him in motion. And when you put guys in motion, Shannon, you know this, it's hard for a defense to now lock a guy on you and just take you away because you don't know where you're going to end up. That guy's going to end up at the final formation. So I like what you're talking about with Mohamed Sanu and the bigger guy. They have so many weapons and so many different options that it's going to be a challenge. But if there was a team that is up for
this is going to be very interesting.
They'll probably do what they do. They'll probably play trail, what we call in basketball, it's called boxing one, where you have the corner that will trail inside, knowing that he has help over the top, so he can be as aggressive as he wants to be, knowing that he doesn't have to worry about getting deep because he has safety help over the top.
I'm going to guess Julio's going to get hits.
No mercy. Speculation has already begun on where Tony Romo might play next season. A picture of Romo with John Elway caused more rumors, and Jerry Jones talked about Romo yesterday. Let's take a listen.
I'm not going to get into that at all, whether we've talked or not. We're at a juncture now that we need to just cool it in our public conversations about what we're going to be doing or not doing there with Tony. I've always had a good feeling that I communicated well and that we as an organization communicated well with Tony. Always. I've always had that.
So how much emphasis is put on backup quarterback in the offseason again this year?
Not as much as we put in last year, because we actually thought we were getting our backup quarterback when we got Dak.
Right.
And so, but we were pushing hard. We knew we had Romo, and we were pushing hard, looking at those quarterbacks with an eye to the future. That won't quite be the emphasis this year.
Skip, read between the lines here. What is Jerry saying?
Get your boy, Skip. Get your boy.
How about that Cowboy owner? I told you before, and I'm going to say it one more time. I spent a lot of time around Jerry, interviewing Jerry, observing Jerry. I think I have a pretty good read on Jerry. And after listening to those comments yesterday, I feel more strongly than ever that Tony Romo will start the opening game next football season for my Dallas Cowboys, because Romo is so lucky that Mason Crosby won back Romo's job for him by making those 2 field goals from 56 yards and 51 yards. You know it, and I know it. That's what happened that day against Green Bay, because as the number 1 seed, Dak Prescott lost his first playoff game at home, which, and again, I said after the game, I thought Dak played well enough to win the game, but it reopened that door, swung it wide open for the Cowboy owner to say, I told you so. We would have gone farther with Tony Romo. And he will now go back to a Tony Romo that, as you always say, he loves like a son, Tony Romo Jones. And this is the guy that Jerry Jones bet the ranch on 3 years ago, and he wants to prove that he can win this Super Bowl with Tony Romo. Again, trust me, I'm sold on Dak. I would have traded Romo at the trade deadline, which is last November 1st. Yes, or I would have just done it. I would have auctioned him off to the highest bidder at that point. But that didn't happen because Jerry wants to win it with Tony Romo. So when Jerry talked yesterday about we just need to cool it, if he really wanted to trade Tony Romo, trust me on this, he would be stoking the fires. He'd be grabbing reporters, pulling them over, saying, let's talk about Tony Romo, because he'd be advertising Tony and that little sizzle reel that he had against Philly in that last regular season game. Nope, they're going to cool it. A year ago, the big push was to find the quarterback of the future and a quality backup quarterback. And now, even though Kellen Moore, free agent, Mark Sanchez, free agent, I wouldn't expect either one of them back. Is this a priority to find another? No, I don't think it's a priority. He says, we're not really in that market right now, because he has his quarterback of the future and his backup quarterback named Dak Prescott, who makes next to nothing as a late 4th-round pick, right? Yep. So you can easily fit him under the salary cap, as Coach Mangini always tells us. It would actually serve them better to keep Tony Romo under the cap next year. It would be more physically responsible. Mm-hmm. And then finally, Jerry was asked, do you have the backup on your roster? And he said, well, we could have, but that's not a given yet. And my translation of that statement was, he does have his backup quarterback on the roster, but he doesn't want to admit that publicly, because he doesn't want Dak to know that through the offseason, because it would really upset Dak. It might even alienate Dak Prescott, and he doesn't want to do it yet until they get to training camp, and all of a sudden Dak opens his eyes and sees the writing on the locker room wall. Wait a second. He's getting more snaps than I am in training camp and in the preseason games. I'm now back to being what I was supposed to be, the backup quarterback.
Skip, you're very familiar with Dallas. You spent a lot of years there. Where is this French-speaking population in Dallas that Jerry Jones is speaking of, this we? Ain't no we need to cool it. You need to cool it. It was you that said, we need to see Tony Romo throw the ball at practice. It was you that said the plays that Aaron Rodgers were making, those are Tony Romo type plays.
He did?
He said that. It was also, my real regret would be if we do not win a championship in the Tony Romo era as a Dallas Cowboy. He said that. That was not we. It was him. What did he say on Monday, Skip? Jason Garrett said it's going to be an organizational decision.
No.
Jerry Jones says the buck stops with me. I'm going to make that decision. So where is this we that we're speaking of?
No, he did. He said only one makes that decision.
Exactly. So it's really not a we, it's an I. Mm-hmm. This doesn't change the fact, Skip, that I believe Tony Romo will be traded away. Because here's the thing. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, I'm going to look at Tony Romo as a coffee table. The Cowboys have a coffee table. I'm in the market for a coffee table, Joy. Now, this coffee table has some scratches. It's been broken up a few times, and there might be a time that I might have to stick a couple of phone books up in there to hold it up. Now, I know this going into it. Now, I know this owner, he loves this coffee table.
He does.
Although it's been battered and bruised, he got a lot of scratches and scrapes on it.
To him, it's an antique headed for Canton, right?
Yes, yes.
Yep.
Because he's afraid that if somebody gets this coffee table and shine it up, make it look real nice and
That
neat,
is true.
somebody can get more benefit out of it than what I did. So he's like, now I need to try to either I'm going to keep them or they're going to have to make me an offer I just can't refuse to let this coffee table go. And that's what he's trying to do, Skip. Look, I know what Tony Romo is. He's about to be a 37-year-old, badly damaged, beaten down quarterback. You don't get healthier as you get older. We look at Tom Brady. Tom Brady's had one injury. He had an ACL injury. He hadn't had 3 collarbone surgeries. He hadn't had 2 back surgeries. That's what Tony Romo has gone through, let's just say, in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
So we know who and what he is. Jerry, you need to cool it. It's you that's trying to hype Tony Romo. We know what Tony Romo is. We also know what he isn't. You believe, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. What does Jerry Jones believe? Jerry Jones believes that I can win a Super Bowl with Tony Romo. I also believe, and you said this, Skip, and I said this earlier, I'm not saying that Jerry wants to lose, but he would feel a lot better winning if Tony Romo was his quarterback.
You would.
And the mere fact that Dak, even though Dak threw for 300 yards, and I'm not so sure that if he hadn't played Aaron Rodgers playing that historically great that day, that Dak doesn't win that game. I'm not so sure that any other quarterback other than Aaron Rodgers
I'll buy that.
And Matt Ryan in the NFC that day, Dak Prescott would have won that game.
He would have.
But because of that was Aaron Rodgers, he didn't win. But Jerry thinks somehow that Tony Romo would have outgunned Aaron Rodgers.
He does.
He doesn't look at that his defense gave up 21 points in the blink of an eye. But he doesn't look at it like that. It's all Dak's fault. Now, what's going to end up happening, Skip? And like you said, he doesn't want Dak to know, but Dak is feeling some kind of way because he hears this. He knows his owner really never supported him fully. He knows in the back of his mind his owner wanted Tony Romo to be the starting quarterback. But he played so well, he held his owner's hands. He had his owner's hand tied.
He did.
And Stephen Jones talked to him. But Stephen Jones can't talk to him anymore because he's going to say, Stephen, I told you.
And by the way, Stephen was asked by those same reporters yesterday, and for once, he just threw up his hands and says, nope, you're asking the wrong guy. That's Jerry's business. So he wouldn't even answer the Romo question.
Right.
So he knows the buck stops there. Usually on other bucks, they can stop on Stephen's desk, not this buck.
And because Stephen was probably sitting at the table and saying, Dad, we can't do this.
Can't do this. I agree. I agree.
I understand he's a rookie, but look how he's playing. He's doing things we've never seen before. And we've seen some great rookies. Oh, let's just say over the last 5 years. We've seen Cam. We've seen Andrew. We've seen Russell Wilson, RG3. This guy is comparable in his rookie season, if not better than all those guys.
He was.
So, Dad, we can't do this. And he says, okay, Stephen, I'm going to listen to you. But, you know, my other son is he's on the bench, and I don't like my other son being.
That is a fact.
So now, when Stephen Jones tries to sit down at the table and say, well, Dad, he's like, nope, Stephen, I listened to you last time. I should have listened to my gut that told me to go ahead and reinsert Tony into the starting lineup. So now Stephen really, he can't talk to him like he could because he lost. At least if he'd won one game, maybe he could have held him off. But you got to understand, Jerry, Aaron Rodgers played the first 2 games, he played historically great. And if you think Tony Romo could have outgunned him, you're sadly mistaken because I believe Tony Romo would have put the ball in harm's way more than Dak Prescott actually did. So now, instead of being a 3-point ball game, there's easily a chance that could have been a 10, 13, 17-point loss for you. Loss is a loss. But Jerry, it's in his mind, it's in his head, Skip, that Tony Romo can get the job done.
So as much as I hear all your conventional wisdom about why you should trade Tony Romo, and I'm completely with you, you need help everywhere across the defense. Their best pass rusher, I put quotes around this last year, DeMarcus Lawrence, they announced yesterday, he needs another back surgery. Really? What are you going to do? Who's going to rush the passer?
Who gets healthier as you continuously go into the back? Remember, Tony Romo had those. Now, mind you, he is a young man. So he's not about to be 37. He's in his early 20s. So he stands a greater chance of coming back healthier than, say, Tony Romo. But just think about what you could add.
Yeah.
If you got Tony Romo's salary off your books, you could go get you a bona fide pass rusher. JPP might be available.
He might be.
Because he said, hey, I'm the baddest seven-finger man in the NFL. Can't
did.
nobody rush the quarterback
You were right.
with 7 fingers like I
Hey,
can.
You get rid of Romo, sky's the limit on restocking, reloading the defense. But also, look.
That balloon payment is going to come
but
due in 3
I
years.
think you're
Skip.
starting to hear me, though, that what a sweet deal for Jerry Jones to be able to start Tony Romo next year, fit him perfectly under the cap. And Jerry knows full well that he's fragile, that he's made of glass, that he could go anytime. Well, what better scenario? You've still got Dak Prescott waiting in the wings, right? And if Tony stays healthy, maybe you go win the Super Bowl. I wouldn't see that.
I'm not banking on Tony staying healthy because I have not seen him play in almost 2 years. So it'll be almost 3 seasons, Skip.
Yeah.
Because out of a possible 32 starts,
I'm with you.
He's missed 28 of those. So it'll be almost 3 years since the last 3 football seasons since we've last seen Tony Romo in meaningful football games.
Yep.
Those little 6 snaps, we know he can throw the football. We know he can play. Do we know if he can still take a hit?
No mercy. It was not a great week for Antonio Brown. He reportedly pouted during D'Angelo Williams' touchdown in Sunday's AFC Championship game. Then he didn't speak to the media after the loss, and he was fined $10,000 for showing Mike Tomlin's post-game speech on Facebook Live last week. Tomlin talked about Brown yesterday. Let's take a listen.
I'm going to continue to challenge him in the ways that I've challenged him over the course of his career, to continue to find new ways to be an impact player for us, to continue to grow within the role that is his role on this team. He's a dynamic player. There are responsibilities that come with being a dynamic player. I'm going to ask him to continue to grow in those areas. But that's not in response to anything that transpired over the course of the season or even at the end of the season. That's normal operating business for all returning players. I think it's important that they have great clarity about not only what their roles are formally, but what the responsibility, the informal responsibilities are associated with those ever-growing and ever-changing roles. And, our conversations will be no different than they've been in regards to those things, but the same could be said about all the players.
We're joined by Chris Carter. Welcome, Chris.
Good morning.
You got notes today.
I'm
normally impressed. You got tiny notes.
I normally don't bring any notes, but Bonnie in the back, I stole one of her napkins just because I think it's pretty important.
Okay.
That's exciting. What's your reaction to Mike Tomlin's comments?
I really don't have a reaction. I realize what's going on in Pittsburgh, but also you have to realize the climate around the National Football League, and that climate is changing as far as star receivers. When you see some of the things that quarterbacks like Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady and what they do on a regular basis with, say, ordinary guys, ordinary wide receivers, there's probably begin to generate momentum. Are these receivers, are they really worth it? And we've been through this the last 30 years. This is not new. No. It's not new, a coach talking about a wide receiver, but there's a few foundational things that people need to know about Antonio Brown. There's no one in Pittsburgh Steelers organization can say they work harder than him. Now, we have all the videos of James Harrison lifting weights and everything, but you talk to the players, you talk to the coaches, Antonio Brown is the hardest worker on the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's really worked on his game. He's out of Miami, went to New Orleans High School, not a great high school career, ended up going to a prep school for 1 year in North Carolina before he went to Central Michigan. But in the last 4 years, this is what he's done. 106 receptions, almost 1,300 yards, 136 catches the year before that, almost 1,400 yards, 129, almost 1,700 yards, and 110, almost 1,500 yards. That's what he has done the last 4 years. Now, Mike Tomlin, I like the fact that I'm not going to change. I'm going to continue to push him as a great player. And also, Mike Tomlin, it's important to him what his men are like. So Mike is going to push him as far as off the field for him to become more consistent. Antonio likes the limelight. He likes to hang out. He's not reckless, but he likes to hang out. And he's not happy with his contract in Pittsburgh. So all these other things in the NFL has tried to help him monetize his brand. You see him in a bunch of commercials. You see him in a lot of advertisement. So he's trying to take advantage of that. Now, when the team becomes secondary and your personal stuff becomes the number one thing, that's where you start to see the problem. But I got advice from Mike Tomlin and them. You don't like Antonio Brown? You don't like what you got?
When you give him that money?
Trade him before you give him the contract, because I believe a lot of this is negotiating too. Because he's due to have a new contract. They gave him a little bump before the season. And if you don't like it, you don't think you can deal with him, trade him. Trade him across the state to Philadelphia. Philadelphia needs a receiver. But for me, if I was Mike Tomlin, I would stay on the same path. Antonio, you have to continue to challenge young men to be great young men, not only to be great football players. So I understand what Mike is doing, but there is a solution. Like, you don't have to keep him. You have Martavius Bryant coming back from a suspension. You got another big-time receiver. Okay? Ben might not be happy with it. Okay, you can accommodate him. We can ship him somewhere else, because I'm sure there's a bunch of other teams would take number 84 on their roster immediately.
But you're saying you would not do that, right? You're saying that's laughable to you to even think about trading him.
Man, with the number of crazy guys in the NFL locker room, AB, to me, is just a necessary evil.
Right.
And it's not because he's a wide receiver, because he works as hard as he's a great example. He loves pro football.
There's a certain level, as Coach Tomlin mentioned, there's a certain level of expectation. First of all, to whom much is given, much is required. There's a certain level of expectation that comes along with being a great player in the National Football League. Then there's also another expectation level that comes along with being a great player in the Pittsburgh Steelers organization. They're littered with Hall of Famers. If he goes into a building every day and he sees probably 9, 10, 12 pictures of guys in gold jackets.
He does.
They see 6 Lombardis.
Mm-hmm.
So the stats that CC read off is unimpressive to the Rooneys, because those stats don't mean. Where are the trophies that line up with those receiving numbers?
Well, they've never had a receiver that has done what they've done. So to say that they're not impressed with it, he's producing. And they're a throwing football team, and he's producing.
Let me ask you a question. So how many Lombardis have those numbers help add to the collection?
But it wasn't his fault.
See, you keep telling me it's not his fault. All I'm asking you, how many Lombardis has those great numbers added to the collection? None. He's become a more selfish player. He's more concerned with Facebook likes and mentions. He's more concerned with Instagram followers. I tell all college players that I speak with, I tell all NFL players, I want you to be selfish. Mm-hmm. Because selfish players tend to work harder. They're more disciplined. They will put the time, they'll put the energy, they'll put the effort in to become great.
Yep.
But when your goals, receiving for 100-plus catches, 1,600+ yards, that is more important to Antonio Brown than winning football games.
What should his goals be? What should his goals be?
Win.
I'm a wide receiver.
Win.
And if I get the football, our chances of probability go way, way up. That's just the answer to it. They throw the ball.
So what?
He's the second or third best receiver in the league.
Okay, they got all them catches. I'm trying to figure out how many times have they made. This is the first time making it to the AFC Championship game with him. Right?
It's called the team game.
Oh, so now it's a team game.
Well, let me tell you something. They got a quarterback that's been involved in more stuff over the last 10 years than Antonio would think about. Now, are you saying the same thing about him? Because they have tolerated a bunch of BS from their quarterback. But it's okay because he was on the teams.
No. All I'm saying is, if I thought Ben was selfish, if Ben put Ben before the team, now maybe
when he was riding on a motorcycle with no helmet, what was he doing? Who was he thinking about?
CC, let me say this. If I thought that Ben was more important to getting 5,000 yards, throwing for 40 touchdowns, getting Facebook likes and mentions, then I would have a problem with Ben. Ben was reckless. Ben put himself in harm's way. Not only did he jeopardize his own future, but the Steelers had put a lot of money in Ben Roethlisberger. He jeopardized the team. But I'm always going to say his health was more important to the team. He also did some things off the field that brought a negative light into the Pittsburgh Steelers organization.
Yep, and that was reckless too.
That was reckless. Yep. That was selfish behavior. But I don't think he went into it and said, you know what? Antonio Brown knows what this was going to cause with the likes and mentions. He knew the distraction. Even though he was drawing 15-yard unsportsmanlike conduct, excessive celebration penalties, he was still doing it, even though his defense was struggling, even though his coach asked him to stop, even though his quarterback went on the radio and says he needs to stop. He still did it. Why did he do it, CC? Because it was more important to him to twerk and slide down the goalpost than not put his team in harm's way. That's all I'm saying.
So it's interesting to me. You have more empathy for the quote-unquote diva receiver because you came out of that mold.
It's not. No. Wait a second.
A little bit.
No. Stop. Okay. First of all, because I know him. So I know the story.
Yep.
And I know the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, they try to act like they squeaky clean, but let's stop all that madness, okay? Now, did they have this type of press conference when Big Ben was going through all the things he was going through? Okay? I'm just saying, treat the players equally. That's all I'm saying. It has nothing to do with me being a diva receiver.
First of all, hold up, Skip, before you go. CC, you need to stop. Now, you're going to sit up here and say that every organization treat their players the exact same. They treat them all fair. They don't treat them all the same, CC. You and Randy Moss got different treatment than other players, so just don't be disingenuous.
This is the thing, all right? Has he done anything criminal?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm not, Skip, but that's not what we're talking about, CC.
Okay, all right. I'm just addressing Mike Tomlin's, and also, I'm not displeased with Mike Tomlin said. I'm not displeased with the Steeler organization. I'm just trying to give you a freaking solution. Everybody up here giving their opinion. Okay, this is my solution. You don't like 84? Ship him somewhere.
How about this here?
But you're daring them to do it.
Like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
How about,
yes.
How about this here? How about you conduct yourself like a professional? How about you be unselfish?
Well, we got 1,600 guys in the league
I'm talking about, we're not talking about those 1,600. We're talking about Antonio Brown. So I tell you what we're going to do, Skip? We're going to make you play the contract out, and this is what we're going to do next year. We're going to franchise you. We get 2 franchise tags. You're going to act your West. You got 1 or 2 ways to do things. My grandfather used to say, boy, you got 1 or 2 ways to do things. You can do things my way or you can do things my D way. But you only got 2 ways to do it. Antonio Brown, you got 2 ways to do it. You can do it the Steelers way or you can do it the Pittsburgh.
Well, you say performance tolerance, performance right, and how you do
yes.
it, right? There's no way they're going to trade Antonio Brown. He's on an arc that is Hall of Fame arc.
Absolutely.
He's on the way, but he's got a long way home. So here's my issue. I'm looking at it just from a big picture perspective. I've told you again and again, I'm a big Mike Tomlin fan. I was not a fan of the way he handled that yesterday in his postseason wrap-up news conference. I wanted to hear some fire and brimstone, and I heard Coach speak by his standards because he can spit some fire and brimstone when he wants to. And I wanted him to draw a line in that locker room sand and say, nobody's going to cross this line starting right now. And instead, I got company line from him, and it didn't sound right. It didn't hit my ear right because it didn't sound like him. It sounded like he was saying what he thought he had to say. And I don't want to ever hear Mike Tomlin say what he thinks he has to say. It felt like he was a little bit handicapped in what he was saying yesterday. And look, real quick, it reminds me of one of my favorite shows, Black Sails on Starz. It's coming back this weekend. It's a pirate epic. And like every other episode, the crew is grumbling. They're going to mutiny on Captain Flint. And he calls all hands on deck, and he puts his hand on his sword, and he says, if anybody in here wants to challenge me right now, you draw your sword, and we'll go at it right now. And I wanted to hear Mike Tomlin draw his sword yesterday and say, no, this is my locker room, and I'm going to take it back. And instead, remember, Antonio Brown mutinied on him. He did. It was a flat-out mutiny. He's looking over his shoulder, scoffing at what this guy is saying when that's the best thing he does. That's his strongest attribute is what he says after those games. I wanted to play, man. After I could hear it over, I could hear the distant inspiration that he was spitting out. And then yesterday, we read those quotes. There were 3 or 4 defensive players. They mutinied on this guy. They said, our coaching staff didn't prepare us for this game. Baloney, they didn't prepare you. It's your fault. But you dare to point fingers at Mike Tomlin and his coaching staff? It offended me. And I wanted it to offend Mike Tomlin. I wanted to hear him say it yesterday. I won't take this anymore next year. We are going to get back to being the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I heard we all need to get better in all areas. I'm going to ask Antonio to continue to grow. No, stop it. Again, they're not going to trade him, and maybe he feels like his hands are tied and he can't really say what he wants to say publicly. And to your point you've made several times, maybe he's saying something privately that we don't know about publicly. but that just didn't sound like Mike Tomlin to me, and I was left flat and disappointed by it. That's just me.
Well, Mike Tomlin should be disappointed. He should be disappointed that his defense, talking about they were ill-prepared.
Yeah.
They should be disappointed that, well, we didn't prepare for this play. You can't prepare for everything the offense could potentially run, or you be practicing around the clock. But if you just play your technique, and then you should be good and then you react from there. But if I tell you what, if I am Mike Tomlin, I'm dropping anchor. There'll be no more social media on Pittsburgh
I would
Steelers
too.
property.
I would agree with that.
No Snapchat, no tweeting, no nothing. If you want to do that, get in your car and go across the street. Hey, but it's two
Can
ways
you get
to do
away
things.
with that? Can you do it in this day and age?
Absolutely, you can.
You go right ahead. You can no Snapchat, you can do social media, you can ban it all, but let me tell you what's not going to happen. You're not going to play football without no wide receivers, okay? So we can just stop all that conversation, all right? If this is the era of the quarterback, then also do you need someone to carry the mail, all right?
But it's
unless you're Tom Brady and you don't have any wide
you
receivers.
notice. Think about it. Look at the guys in the last couple of years that's been in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
The receivers that's been in the Super Bowls.
But it ain't the receiver's fault. You think I didn't go to the Super Bowl because it was me?
Look at Julio Jones.
It's called a team. It's a 53-man roster, and the people upstairs got to put the supporting cast around it.
I believe.
What about Ben Roethlisberger?
I believe you can catch passes. I believe you can do a lot of things.
Yeah, you can catch a lot of things, but not a lot of people can catch them like we can catch them. Now, do you want magic? Or do you just want a mule? Okay?
No.
Because that's what we do.
I like it. Magic or mule?
What you want? What you want?
I want you to keep your head down. I want you to keep your eyes open. I want you to keep your mouth shut.
And let me tell you what you need to do. You need to mind your own business because a 53-man roster is a bunch of other crazies off in there, just like the wide receiver.
And I want to, you know what? This is why I played.
And you was on the team as a wide receiver tight end. And just as crazy as Cuckoo Puffs.
But you know what? Ask the guys in the locker room. There are certain things. Like I said, Mike Shanahan, put the team together. But when they came in that locker room, that was my domain. That was my domain.
What about on the sideline when you told them to call the National Guard?
No mercy. This is the Skip and Shannon Undisputed podcast, where we're delivering you an unscripted, unfiltered, undisputed version of the biggest topics of the day's show. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, like us on Facebook at Undisputed on FS1, follow on Twitter at Undisputed, and catch us at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, 6:30 Pacific, Monday through Friday on FS1. You can find us on channel 219 on DirecTV, 150 on Dish. Thanks for listening, everyone. I'm your host, Joy Taylor. That's it for us today at Undisputed. Be sure to catch us tomorrow when we're joined by 4-time Super Bowl champion Bill Romanowski, and our in-house Hall of Famer Chris Carter is back. We'll talk to you Thursday.
Fox Sports 1 of 1.